If you are in the market to buy a heat gun, you need to know there are a couple different types out there that you could choose from. We're going to look at those different types, talk about some of the differences, some of the good qualities and the bad qualities about each, and which one I like the best. There are many different things that you can use a heat gun for. Paint removal, electrical work, epoxy work, DIY, and crafts. But there are different types out there, and one might work better for you than the other. So I've chose 3 of the most popular brands for you to take a look at. The first up, we will look at the Dwall battery powered heat gun. This thing is really cool. We got a full review on that. I'll put an end card at the end of this video. After we go from the Dwall, we're going to take a look at the Ridgid heat gun. This one here is a little bit different than all of the other ones. You're also going to be very careful with this. I'll show you a little bit later in the video what happened to me. The third and final one that we will be looking at is the Wagner electric heat gun. You see these at the Home Depot all the time. Now I'll put a link in the description below for each one of these, but let's take a look at the electric Wagner first. Now this is the Wagner Furno. The prices range anywhere between $29 up to about $49 for these heat guns. I would definitely say not only because of price but build quality, this is absolutely a DIY heat gun. Now that said, you really do get a lot of options with this heat gun, and is the highest temp range at 1350 degrees. You can adjust that fan to high, you can adjust it to low. You got all different heat settings here. You can bring it all the way down to 150 degrees on the lowest setting. You're looking at 1500 watts and 5100 BTUs. But there are definitely a couple issues that I have with this. The first one is it's kind of a cheap build. I've been through 3 of these already, and one I didn't even use that much. I just kept it out in the garage over the winter and it just wouldn't start up. Number 2, if you drop it one too many times or even one time, it ain't gonna last. You can also already see that tip is damaged, and this is the 3rd one that I've had, and I don't use it all that much. It's also a little bit bulky, and my biggest issue with this heat gun is the cool down fan runs forever on this thing. It takes forever for it to shut off, and you can't just turn it back on again. You have to unplug it and then plug it back in if you go to use it again while that fan's still running. Big disappointment there. Now let's take a look at heat up. I'm going to turn this on here and let you see it and hear it. Now this is on the high mode. With the lower mode, really no issue at all with that high airflow, but on high it is like a jet engine and it's pretty loud. You can also see that it doesn't heat up evenly around the inside right where that blower's at. It just, the nozzle, you know, it is what it is for the price. Now for DIY, yeah, absolutely, and I'll shut that light off and let you see, but yeah, it just doesn't heat up evenly. So for the price, it's really not that bad, but it's definitely not meant for a professional user. I'm telling you, I've been through 3 of these already, and you say, yeah, the price isn't bad, but after you buy a couple of them, it adds up anyway, so you might as well get a better one in my opinion. Alright, now let's move it on to the second one, the Dwall. This is battery powered to 20 volt max. Look at the size difference though between the Dwall, which is completely cordless, no cord at all, and the Wagner. Now it is a little bit more expensive, and you got to buy a battery if you don't have one already. If you already have a battery, you're looking about $119. If you don't, you're probably looking around $199. Now even though it is way better built than the Wagner, it doesn't go as hot as the Wagner. You're only looking at 990 degree Fahrenheit on high and then 500 degree on low, and there's the battery. You can use any 20 volt max. But the corded Wagner has way more adjustment when it comes to the heat temp and the fan control. You only have 2 settings, the high and the low on this. But it is extremely light. It's built very well. It's super easy to use. And just like the Wagner, you can pull that trigger, push the button, and you don't have to worry about squeezing that trigger continuously. Now in case I forgot to mention it, it's also extremely quiet, even on the high. The most quiet out of all of these that we're looking at today. Now let's take a look at this real quick and see how fast it heats up. Now we went from the high to low setting, And what I will tell you about the Dwall compared to all the other ones that we're looking at today, it has an excellent heat up time, an excellent cool down time. And not only that, but the air, the hot air that this thing pushes out, it is so well just rounded, I would say. They just did a really good job making sure that all of that heat, that hot air, is equal on each side, top and bottom. So when it comes to just being gauged in, it works really, really, really well. And again, built really well, super light, feels great in the hands. I'm really happy with that. But let's move it on to the third contender. And that would be the Ridgid. Now, this is the biggest one out of the bunch by far. Not only does it take a battery and it's completely coreless, no cord, but it also runs on butane. So that is something that you need to remember. Now, I'll tell you why that's a good thing here in a bit, but remember, butane and batteries. For just the tool only, you're looking at $109, which isn't really all that bad. Still cheaper than the Dwall, but much bigger as well. Now, the max temp on this, you're looking at 1100 degrees. So lower than the Wagner, higher than the Dwall. But the one thing this has that the Dwall does not is you can adjust this to wherever you want it. So the 1100 max heat, it doesn't say what you can bring it down to, but I'm guessing around 160, 170. Now, the feel of it, it is a little bit heavier. Again, it is much bigger than the Dwall, a little bit bigger than the Wagner, but it still feels good in the hands. And the reason why it's bigger is because it is butane. Now, the reason why I like the butane, and this is just my personal opinion, is because I use these heat guns with epoxy constantly. And the reason why I like the Ridgid is because it works much better. You got the carbon monoxide in there and you got that heat adjustment. And as far as it goes with the fan, it does not blow anything all over the place. It's actually very well controlled. And to start this, you just pull that trigger, turn it on, you'll hear it click, and it starts right up. Now, even though it sounds like the fan is running really high, it's not the fan, it's actually the flame. You actually have a flame in there heating this thing up. And again, it is super simple to adjust that heat. You bring it down. If you want to shut it off, you just flip that knob over to the opposition. You see it blinking and it shuts off. Now, as for build, this thing is a freaking tank. I've busted this thing off the concrete floor many a times and I have not had any issues, but let's heat it up. Now, the one thing I will tell you right off the bat with the Ridgid is it does not have that circumference like the Dwall does where it goes the whole way around. It's more centralized. Even though you do get a lot of heat coming off the sides, the Dwall, in my opinion, is just probably the best when it comes out of all of these. But again, it all depends on what you're using this for. And like the Wagner, you have a lot of control on that heat setting. But I wish I really would have known how to use it a little bit better before, well, I started using it. I ran into some issue. You know, I wanted to take my lady out somewhere nice. We went to Taco Bell, or we were getting ready to go to Taco Bell. And well, look what happened. You know, I just never really forgot that Ridgid. And yeah, at the end of the day, don't do that. So at the end of the day, it really comes down to what you're looking for, what you're looking to use these heat guns for. You know, me personally, I like the Ridgid because, well, I use the epoxy and the carbon monoxide just seems to work a lot better than, you know, the electric units. But if you're painting or if you have paint fumes, well, you probably don't want to go with a torch. Maybe you're a DIYer where you don't want to spend a lot of money, you don't want the batteries, you don't want the butane, but you just want something to use every once in a while, and you probably store it inside because it won't last through the winter. This video here is not telling you which one to pick. It is basically just showing you there are different options out there on the market. And even though the Wagner might be the electric version and a little bit cheaper, well, there's a lot of other ones out there that run a lot better than the Wagner. I am curious, however, which one do you like best out of these options? Which one will work better for you and why? Leave me a comment in the comment section below and let me know. If you like this video, don't forget to smash that like button. If you don't like this video, don't forget to smash that like button. Subscribe and hit that bell notification so you don't miss out on any reviews. And come say hi to us on the Instagram page at Tool Review Zone. We'll see you soon.